Hi friends. Story on Friday presents you, Feluda's Weakest Mystery. Written by, Satyajit Roy. In the ongoing story we heard, Mr. Satyajit Roy was missing while roaming around the lakeside. Police suspected that, he has been murdered. Feluda's got involved in this case. He investigate two major suspect, Mr. Satyajit Roy and Mr. Jagannath Bhattacharya. But Feluda didn't get any information from there. Also he got a news that, Mr. Nepal Lahiri, the main actor of Apsara Theatre was murdered. The murder happened in Mati Mistry Lane, where Mr. Nepal Lahiri used to stay. Thereafter, in Mati Mistry Lane, not more than 3 people can walk side by side. We parked the car on the main road, and proceeded towards the alley. At the corner, there was a small beetle and cigarette shop. When we asked the owner, he told us that Satyajit Chatterjee lived in house number 3. When we knocked on the door, a gentleman opened it.
Who are you looking for?
We were looking for Mr. Satyajit Chatterjee.
I am that person. What do you need?
As Mr. Lolmohan handed over a card, the gentleman's eyes lit up.
Are you the famous writer of mystery thrillers?
Mr. Lolmohan showed some humility.
I don't know if I am famous, but I am that person.
Oh my. I have read all your books. So, what brings you to this poor man's house suddenly?
I have come on behalf of my friend, the detective Mr. Pradosh Mitra.
I have heard his name too. Please, come inside.
Finally, we entered the room. The room was almost entirely filled by a wooden cot, but there were also 2 wooden chairs. Mr. Lolmohan sat on one of the chairs and said,
We are investigating the murder of your friend. If you could tell us something about it.
What can I say? He was murdered before he could enter my house. A boy from the neighborhood informed me. We had been friends for 22 years, even though we acted in rival theaters.
Do you know if he had any enemies?
How could Nepal not have enemies? He was such a big hero, envied by all the other actors. Of course he had enemies.
Do you recall any specific names?
No. No specific names come to mind. Nepal never mentioned any. He didn't really care about others. He was a bit reckless. There were very few in his profession who could match his talent. Many other theaters tried to lure him with a lot of money. But since he began his acting career at Apsara, he never went anywhere else.
Did he tell you about the threatening letters he was receiving?
Yes, he did, but he didn't take them seriously. A renowned astrologer had told him that he would live to be 82. He believed that. He used to say he would continue acting until that age, and take his last breath on the stage.
Mr. Satyajit sighed deeply.
That's all I have to say, you know. And I'm not in a good mood. You all should leave now.
We got up. Thinking we had done enough for one morning, we headed home. We needed to report everything to Feluda. After hearing everything, Feluda praised Mr. Lolmohan highly.
You worked like a professional detective. The only thing left is to interrogate the other leading actors of the Apsara Theatre, especially the top actors, those who had both friendship and rivalry with Nepal Lahiri.
What about your leg? I asked.
Still not good. It will take at least another 2 days to heal. By the way, when you talk to the actors, don't forget the newcomer.
No, of course not.
Mr. Lolmohan was in a very cheerful mood after doing Feluda's job. He said,
This was a new experience. Actually, your job isn't as difficult as it seems.
The difficulty lies in unraveling the mystery.
True. I surely can't do that yet, nor am I claiming to. But I can tell you one thing, if you saw me there today, you wouldn't have recognized me.
Really?
Absolutely.
Is there a rehearsal going on there?
I think so. The Lalamgir show is starting in a few days.
Then call the manager, and find out what time we can meet everyone and talk to them. Did you see any police?
No, I didn't.
They must be there. The papers say they are investigating. I'll call Inspector Bomick. It seems the case will fall under his jurisdiction.
After talking to Inspector Bomick, Feluda learned that the police suspect a gang of thugs. Apparently, Mr. Nepal had a gold watch that went missing after the murder. It was a very expensive watch, and that might be the motive for the murder. Feluda said.
So, you think this murder has no connection with the theater?
To which Mr. Bomick replied that it was his impression. A gang had been causing trouble in that area for some time, and most of them were known criminals. The knife was lodged in Mr. Nepal's body, but no fingerprints were found on it. Finally, Mr. Bomick mentioned that he hoped the case would be resolved within 3 days, there wouldn't be any need for Feluda's involvement. Feluda hung up the phone and said,
Call the manager. We need to interrogate the actors.
I immediately called Apsara Theatre. After dialing 3 times, I got through. The manager said the police had already questioned everyone once. However, if we wanted to question them again, we should come on Thursday, at 10:30 a.m. There would be a rehearsal at 11 o'clock, so we would have half an hour to complete our work. After I hung up, Feluda said,
We only need to interrogate the top 3 actors, and the new actor.
We arrived at Apsara Theatre 5 minutes before 10:30 on Thursday. I've seen that, Feluda still has pain in his leg. Mr. Lolmohan was even smarter today, his way of walking and talking had changed. We first met the manager and said, we wanted to question the top 3 actors and the new actor. Then start with Dharni Sanal. He is the senior-most artist here, he has been working for 26 years. The room next to the manager's office was cleared for our interrogation. The room had a sofa and 3 chairs. A gentleman in his 50s entered. He had lion-like mane hair, mostly white, with sleepy eyes, and a medium complexion.
My name is Dharni Sanal,
said the gentleman.
Are you detectives?
Yes, we are.
Said Mr. Lolmohan directly.
We are investigating Mr. Nepal Lahiri's case.
Nepal was receiving threatening letters.
Said Mr. Dharni.
I told him to be careful, but he didn't pay any attention. And then, he went to Mati Mistry Lane. For heaven's sake, it's okay to not meet a friend for a few days. I even told him to inform the police, but he didn't care. A similar thing happened to another of our actors, Mahitash Roy. Of course, Mahitash's death wasn't as big a loss for the theater.
Do you know if Mr. Nepal had any enemies?
Being in the top position in the theater, he was bound to have enemies. One of the 6 human vices is envy. How could Nepal not have enemies? But if you ask me which enemy committed this crime, or if it was someone other than an enemy, I can't say.
Did you often meet Mr. Nepal outside the theater?
No, not really. We would see each other at the theater, but he wasn't such a close friend that we would meet outside regularly.
What were you doing the evening when he was murdered?
I was listening to a play at Kalakinkar Ghosh's house. You can verify it if you like.
All right, we have no further questions for you.
Next came Dipen Bose. He was about 45 years old, with a head full of curly hair, a cigarette at the corner of his mouth, and no beard or mustache. He started by saying,
Nepal and I joined Apsara Theatre at almost the same time. He was a born actor. I had ambitions too, but I realized I couldn't compete with Nepal.
Didn't that make you feel envious?
Of course it did. Absolutely. For a long time, I thought to myself, this man is an obstacle in my path. Can't I get rid of him?
Did you ever want to turn that thought into action?
Are you mad? We are ordinary people. How can we commit murder? We act in plays, so various dramatic thoughts come to mind. That's it.
What were you doing the evening he was murdered?
I was watching a movie, but I can't provide proof. I never keep the ticket stubs.
What movie did you watch?
It's Bengali movie, Moner Manish.
How did you like it?
Third class.
All right, you may go now.
The third actor's name was Bhujanga Roy. He was over 50, with a sharp nose, sunken eyes, hollow cheeks, and thinning hair.
Did you have a good relationship with Mr. Nepal?
In this theater, Nepal was my closest friend.
Do you have anything to say about his death?
This is one of the greatest tragedies in the theater world in a long time. Nepal was an amazing actor. We never clashed because he played the hero roles and I played character parts.
Did he tell you about the threatening letters he was receiving?
From the very first day. I warned him not to dismiss such letters and, especially, to avoid going to Matty Mistry Lane for a while. That area is notorious. But who listens to whom? Nepal believed that he would live to be 82, no one could convince him otherwise.
So, you think his death was at the hands of thugs?
That's what it seems like, especially since his expensive watch was also missing. A gold Omega watch, worth 7,000 rupees.
We let Mr. Bhujanga go, and he thanked us before leaving. Next came the new actor, named Sudhendu Chakraborty. At first glance, his Mughal-style beard and mustache were striking. He was in makeup. He mentioned that he started growing the beard as soon as he heard about the Alamgir role at Apsara Theatre. Before that, he only had a mustache.
Where did you act before this?
Mr. Lulmohan asked.
Nowhere. I did a few plays at office clubs. I had a plywood business. But acting has always been my passion. When I had nothing else to do, I would open a playbook, memorize parts, and act in front of a mirror. But now, I don't need to do that anymore.
Have you secured a part in Alamgir?
There's no doubt about that, though which part is yet to be decided. It might be a main part.
Where do you live?
Amherst Row.
Will you leave your business now?
Yes. Acting has always been my passion. I was running the business because I didn't get an opportunity.
To ensure I could report to Feluda accurately, I was recording the conversation on a tape recorder. I could sense that Mr. Lulmohan was asking the questions, while imagining himself as Feluda. This was a completely new experience for us. There was one more question for Mr. Sudhendu. Did you know Mr. Nepal?
Hardly. But I had seen many of his performances before. I liked them very much.
Feluda listened to our report very attentively. Then he said,
You guys are managing quite well in my absence.
Mr. Lulmohan said,
Asking questions isn't the tricky part, the real challenge is interpreting the answers. Honestly, I'm still in the dark. And if a thug killed Lahiri, the police will definitely figure it out.
Thugs don't send threatening letters before killing.
Feluda remarked.
True. So, do you think the same person killed both Nepal Lahiri and Mahitash Roy?
Mr. Lulmohan asked.
One person or the same group. That's the most logical assumption.
But the motive?
Suppose someone from another theater committed the murder, the motive is clear. Apsara Theatre has now lost 2 top actors. It won't be easy for them to recover.
Feluda's leg still hurt quite a bit. He probably needed an X-ray. Sitting on the sofa, with his bandaged leg propped up on the coffee table, he said,
You guys have done a lot of work. Now let me think quietly for a bit.
What are you going to do? I asked.
I'm going to think. I see a glimmer of light in the darkness. It needs to become brighter.
Mr. Lolmohan said.
You think. I'll have a cup of tea without disturbing you.
I noticed. Feluda frowned and closed his eyes. Was he going to solve the mystery just sitting here? After a while, he asked.
Did you notice any peculiar habits among the actors you talked to?
I said. Bhujanga Roy sniffs snuff, Dharni Sanyal smokes biddies, and Sudhendu Chakraborty chews pan masala.
Good,
said Feluda. After some silence, Srinath brought tea for Mr. Lolmohan, who was sipping it with satisfaction. I was flipping through a magazine. Feluda gets various magazines, most of which end up in the wastepaper basket. After about 5 minutes of silence, I looked at Feluda and saw that his eyes were open and gleaming.
Mr. Lolmohan,
Feluda said in a low voice.
Yes?
This Sudhendu Chakraborty, is he a man of medium height?
Yes?
Fair complexion?
Yes. You're right.
Around 40 or 45 years old?
Yes, but do you know him?
Not just me, you both know him too.
What? Has the mystery been solved right here in this room?
Wait, let me call Inspector Bhowmick first.
I dialed the number for Feluda and handed him the phone. Feluda said.
Hello, Mr. Herodis. This is Pradosh Mitra speaking. Listen, regarding that Apsara theater case, I think it's better not to waste time on the thugs. Because I know who the killer is. Since I'm incapacitated, you need to come over. I'm 99% sure. Just come within an hour.
Feluda hung up the phone. We were looking at him intently.
Very curious to know. Okay, I won't keep you in suspense any longer. The matter is as clear as water, yet as twisted. I must say, hats off to the murderer. It was an ingenious plan. Even fellow Mitter was deceived. It's simply a matter of jealousy. The attempt was to eliminate Nepal Lahiri and take his place as the leading actor, that's why the murder.
But Mahetash Roy?
He wasn't murdered.
What?
No. He orchestrated the whole event, from the threatening letters onwards, to make it appear as though he was killed. In reality, he is alive and well, living under a new identity. He went to the lake, just to discard the pan masala tin. Disappearing afterward would lead people to suspect he had been murdered and his body was in the lake.
Remarkable mind, that guy.
Then, after 3 months, he grew a beard and mustache and arrived at Apsara Theatre. Facial hair can completely change a person's appearance, so you didn't recognize him. Apsara needed an actor, so there was no reason not to take him, especially with his good looks and voice.
Means, are you saying Sudhendu Chakraborty?
Yes, sir. His habit of chewing pan masala hasn't gone away, even though it was a careless move to chew in front of you. In any case, his plan would have been completely successful if not for your help. The man became a seasoned murderer purely out of ambition. The theft of the watch was just a ruse. But he didn't know, fellow Mitter. He'll soon realize what a big mistake it was to come to me.
It was confirmed the next day through a call from Inspector Bhowmick that Feluda was right about the matter. Mr. Lolmohan, catching me alone, said.
I've realized the difference between your brother and us.
What difference? Mr. Lolmohan tapped his forehead with the tip of his right index finger and said.
The mind.
Dear friends, this is the end of the story. You were listening to the Feluda's Weakest Mystery from Feluda series, written by Satyajit Roy. If you like it, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like it. And share your opinion in the comments. Thank you.